I have been writing for about 17 years, since 2008. And this one is a book of short stories.
Your books just go from strength to strength. You have a new one out, David has a new one out.
Have you read it?
No.
Have you read it? No.
It's not for me, it's for children.
Well, you probably enjoy it.
The charming judge on Britain's Got Talent, who made millions laugh with his comedy sketches. You've probably read his children's books to your kids at bedtime. But what if I told you that behind all those smiles and all that success, David Walliams was fighting a battle so dark that it almost ended his life multiple times? This is the true story of a man who made the world laugh while crying on the inside. Stay with me because what you're about to hear will change how you see fame forever. David Walliams was born in August 1971 in London. His family wasn't rich. His dad worked for the London transport system, and his mom worked in a hospital lab. They lived in a small 2-bedroom house that you could barely call fancy. From the outside, everything looked perfectly normal. But inside that house, something was already going wrong with little David. When he was only 4 years old, his mom would find him locked in the bathroom for hours. He wasn't just playing. He was talking to himself in different voices, having full conversations with people who weren't even there. Most parents would think their kid was just being creative. But this was different. This was a little boy already struggling with feelings he couldn't understand. Even at that young age, David was dealing with sadness and worry that most adults never experience. Things got much worse when David turned 7. He joined a group called the Sea Scouts because he wanted to fit in and make friends. But within just 3 weeks, everything went horribly wrong. The older boys started picking on him. They said he talked funny and acted too dramatic. They made him feel like he didn't belong anywhere. Then came the moment that would haunt him forever. During a summer camp, David was found hanging from a tree by his scout neckerchief. The leaders told everyone it was an accident. They told his parents he had fallen. But, years later, David admitted the truth. At just 7 years old, he had tried to end his own life. Think about that for a second. 7 years old. Most kids that age are worried about what toys they'll get for their birthday. David was so sad that he didn't want to live anymore. This wasn't just a one-time thing. The darkness inside him kept growing. By the time he was 10, David was trying to escape his pain through comedy. He collected dozens of comedy albums and spent every penny of his allowance buying them from charity shops. He would stay up until 2 in the morning, performing comedy routines to his mirror while wearing his mother's clothes. His mom would find him like this and probably wondered what was happening to her son. That same year, doctors put him on antidepressants. Imagine being 10 years old and already needing medication just to get through the day. David would wear headphones for 8 hours straight, trying to drown out the terrible thoughts in his head. His grades at school collapsed. He went from being a top student to barely passing. He was choosing laughter over everything else because laughter was the only thing that made the pain go away, even if just for a moment. When David was 12, the bullying got even worse. He changed schools, but it didn't help. Within months, he ended up in the hospital twice. Once for a broken nose and once after being locked in a cupboard for hours. His classmates gave him a cruel nickname and made fun of everything about him. He lost so much weight that teachers started keeping notes about the bruises they saw on him. David would say he fell down the stairs, but everyone knew the truth. The worst part was what the bullies made him do. They would force him to perform comedy acts in the school toilets while they threw wet toilet paper at him. Can you imagine? The thing he loved most, the thing that brought him joy, was being used to humiliate him. But even through all this torture, David kept performing. In drama class, he got top marks. He once scored 98% for a show he did about loneliness. He was living that loneliness every single day. Then came another suicide attempt. After more horrible treatment at the Sea Scouts, where he was stripped and humiliated during a fake swimming test, David went home and tried to hang himself with his school tie. His mother found him unconscious at 7:43 in the evening. He had been out cold for about 3 minutes. The ambulance rushed him to the hospital where they kept him under psychiatric watch for 3 days. The doctor wrote that his thoughts were far more serious than what you'd expect from a child his age. His parents finally pulled him out of the Scouts for good. But David didn't talk about this suicide attempt publicly until 16 years later. He carried that secret, that shame, that pain for 16 years while building a career making people laugh. At 13, David joined the National Youth Theater. You'd think being around other kids who loved acting would help him feel less alone. But it didn't. Even surrounded by people who shared his passion, he felt like a complete outsider. He met Matt Lucas there, who would LD become his comedy partner and one of his closest friends. But even that friendship couldn't stop the darkness. When David turned 16, he had to join an actors union. But there was already someone using the name David Walliams, so he opened a phone book, pointed at a random name, and chose Walliams. This simple act would define his entire career. His father was upset because it felt like David was rejecting their family. But for David, it was about becoming someone new. It was about not wanting to be himself anymore. In 1989, David went to university to study drama. That winter, during Christmas break, he had another breakdown. He went back to his childhood bedroom and overdosed on pills. His mother found him lying there, lifeless. She thought her son was dead. She rushed him to the hospital, crying the entire way. He survived, but barely. Later, David would say that his mother's love was the only thing that saved him that day. The overdose finally made his parents see how deep his pain really went. But even at university, surrounded by other creative people, David continued to struggle. He joined a comedy group that included future stars, and on stage he made everyone laugh. But off stage, he was falling apart. He once had to be hospitalized again, and his classmates had no idea how bad things really were. He had become an expert at hiding his pain behind a smile. In 1991, David wrote in his private diary about wanting to step in front of a train. This wasn't just a passing thought. He imagined it in detail. He researched it. Even with friends around him who cared about him, the pain wouldn't leave. It followed him everywhere like a shadow he couldn't escape. David's comedy career started taking off in the 90s. He performed at the famous Edinburgh Festival. He got an agent. He started getting work on television. But behind every performance, behind every successful show, he was barely holding it together. He had panic attacks every morning. He would lose weight from stress. Audiences had no idea that the funny man on stage was suffering so much. In 1995, David teamed up with Matt Lucas for a comedy show. They made fun of old children's programs and created controversial sketches that got people talking. The show became a cult hit and launched both their careers. But things behind the scenes weren't always smooth. David would sometimes disappear during filming without warning, and Matt would have to carry on without him. Then, in 2000, something magical happened. David and Matt launched a radio show called Little Britain. It came on late at night, but people who heard it couldn't stop talking about it. They created wild, strange characters that made people laugh and gasp at the same time. The show was shocking and funny, and unlike anything else on radio. 3 years later, Little Britain moved to television, and that's when David Walliams became a household name. The first episode pulled in nearly 2 million viewers. David went all out, dressing in wigs and makeup, transforming into outrageous characters. By 2005, the show was massive. Almost 10 million people watched each episode. That meant nearly 4 out of every 10 people watching TV at that time were watching Little Britain. David became rich and famous. The show Walliams d millions from DVD sales alone. They went on a huge live tour that sold out a year in advance. They performed over 200 shows in front of 800,000 people and earned £25 million. David Walliams was at the top of the comedy world. He had everything anyone could want: fame, money, success, fans who loved him. But here's what nobody knew. On New Year's Day 2003, right before all this massive success, David tried to kill himself again. He took a kitchen knife and cut both his wrists and his throat. Later that same year, after a painful breakup, he tried hanging himself. In his diary, he wrote something heartbreaking. He said, "I knew I didn't really want to die. I just didn't want to live." Think about that. Here's a man making millions of people laugh every single week. He's on magazine covers. He's signing autographs. He's living the dream. But inside, he's so broken that he doesn't want to be alive. He kept performing night after night while secretly falling apart. His mother once found him after another overdose and cried for weeks. Even while getting treatment at a psychiatric clinic, he kept doing shows. The smile never left his face in public. In 2008, Little Britain crossed to America with a show on HBO. It got Emmy nominations. But American audiences didn't respond the same way. Many were upset about the stereotypes in the show. The ratings were terrible, and HBO canceled it after just 6 episodes. This was the beginning of David's career troubles. Comedy was changing, and his style wasn't fitting anymore. But David found something new. In 2008, he published his first children's book called The Boy in the Dress. It was about a boy who wears girls' clothes, and it caused huge controversy. Some parents said it was promoting dangerous ideas. Stores in Australia faced demands to remove it from shelves. But David said he wrote it to help people understand and accept each other. The book became a massive hit. It was turned into a BBC film and even became a musical. This book started David's new career as a children's author that would eventually sell over 50 million books. Around this time, David also did something incredible for charity. In 2006, he swam across the English Channel. It took him over 10 hours. He battled jellyfish, freezing cold water, and huge waves from ships. He raised almost £1 million for charity. But later, he admitted it wasn't just about helping others. He was trying to escape the sadness in his own head. The physical pain helped distract him from the emotional pain. In 2011, David's father died from liver cancer. It hit him hard. He stopped everything to be by his dad's side in his final months. That year, David wrote Gangster Granny, a children's book about a boy and his grandmother. But it was really about love, loss, and family. It became one of his biggest hits. Later that year, David did another charity swim, this time through the River Thames in London. The river was so polluted that he got violently sick halfway through. He was vomiting, had terrible diarrhea, and developed a high fever from swallowing bacteria. Some swimmers who got the same illness ended up on life support. David's body started shutting down, and he later needed emergency back surgery because of the damage. What started as a good cause ended up being another way he hurt himself. In 2010, David married a Dutch supermodel named Lara Stone. Their son Alfred was born in 2013. But the marriage was already falling apart. David's depression and mood swings were so bad that even his psychiatrist warned about the danger. By 2015, Lara moved out with their son. Their divorce turned into a bitter court battle over £19 million. The stress made David's mental health even worse. In 2012, David joined Britain's Got Talent as a judge. Sitting next to Simon Cowell, he brought in over 11 million viewers per episode. He became famous for his emotional reactions to performances. He would cry when acts moved him. He pressed the golden buzzer for a school choir that touched his heart. For 10 years, from 2012 to 2022, he was one of the most recognizable faces on British television. But then everything came crashing down. In 2020, during filming breaks, David made some crude private comments about contestants. He didn't know his microphone was still recording. He said nasty things about people's appearances and made inappropriate jokes. These were supposed to be private conversations, never meant to be heard by anyone. But in November 2022, nearly 3 years later, the transcripts leaked to the press. The scandal exploded. David was 51 years old. He apologized immediately, saying those conversations were never meant to be public. But it was too late. People who had seen him as a kind children's author and family entertainer were shocked. The production company had just offered him a £1 million contract to return for the 2023 season. They took it back immediately. That same month, David's psychiatrist revealed he was having severe suicidal thoughts again. He told people he had lost his ability to be funny. He became scared to enter a TV studio, worried that more recordings might come out. His 10-year run as a judge was over. He was replaced, and his career seemed finished. In September 2023, David sued the production company. He said they had kept his microphone on all day, even during breaks, and recorded his personal conversations without telling him. The lawsuit revealed they had recordings of him talking about his food addiction, his father's death, and his divorce. David said the leak had caused him serious mental harm and massive financial loss. In November 2023, they reached a private settlement. The company apologized and promised to treat future performers with more respect. The damage to his career was massive. After the story broke, he lost about £1.7 million in planned work. TV projects were cancelled. Stage shows based on his books were dropped. His podcast with Matt Lucas was shelved. Nobody wanted to work with him. His reputation as a safe, family-friendly writer was shattered. But here's what's important to understand. For 10 straight years, David's microphones had been recording nearly everything he said. And when those recordings came out, the image he had spent so long building crumbled overnight. He had originally sued for £10 million, but the settlement was much less. Still, it gave him a small chance to breathe and start again. Despite everything, David's books kept selling. His total sales crossed 50 million copies. His work had been translated into 53 languages. Writing had become more than just a job. It became his therapy, his way of surviving. In December 2024, David reunited with Matt Lucas. They're working on a new podcast together and meeting with streaming services to pitch new projects. They know times have changed, and they're trying to create something fresh that fits today's world. In November 2024, David spoke out again about the moment his mother found him after his overdose in 1989. He described the scene in heartbreaking detail. He said it broke her heart, and she cried for weeks. He said he was ashamed he was so selfish to put her through that pain. He also talked about the fear he's lived with his entire life. Fear of life, fear of love, fear of everything. David wanted people to understand that mental illness can hide behind a smile, that family can make the difference between life and death, that success and fame don't fix the pain inside. Today, David Walliams is 53 years old. He's still writing books. He's still trying to make people laugh. But now he's also trying to be honest about his struggles. He's learned that hiding the pain only makes it worse. He's learned that asking for help isn't weakness, it's courage. David's story teaches us something crucial. You can have everything the world says should make you happy and still be suffering inside. You can make millions of people laugh and still be crying yourself to sleep. Mental illness doesn't care how successful you are, how much money you have, or how many people love you. It's a real illness that needs real treatment and real understanding. If you or someone you know is struggling with dark thoughts, please reach out for help. Talk to someone you trust. Call a helpline. See a doctor. You are not alone, and your life matters more than you know. David Walliams' journey isn't over. He's still fighting, still creating, still surviving, and that takes more courage than most of us will ever understand. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to our channel for more true stories that matter. Let's keep the conversation about mental health going. Together, we can break the silence and help save lives. Thank you for watching, and remember, it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to suffer alone.